Hi, I'm Mara Webster with In Creative Company, and thank you so much for tuning into one of our talks today. We are a year-round talk series bringing you the best creative voices across film, television, and theater. And I'm so delighted today to be joined by the wonderfully talented Marcus Scribner to talk not just about his show Blackish, but also his new film project, Farewell, Amor. And
Mhm.
I wanted to start by talking about Farewell, Amor because I know this is an incredibly personal project for
Mm.
Ekwe Musangi, who's the writer and director of the film. And it's something where she's based it on her aunt and uncle's relationship and marriage and the roadblocks that they faced through immigration and visa issues where they've been separated for over 20 years. And kind of with that being such a personal story that she's telling, I was interested in how that transcended into the way that she worked with you and the rest of the cast in developing your characters and just kind of approaching this entire story and every single moment and layer of these characters with such emotionality.
Yeah. Um, the Echo definitely, like you were saying, approach it with a personal touch, obviously, with it being about her family members and their life stories. So she would often just tell us straight up stories about what she used to do back when she was going to school and she wanted to be a dancer, and her and her friends would make all these like funny dance videos. And I forget what the name of her friend is, but in the movie, Sylvia, one of her friends is based off of one of Ekwa's real life friends who we got to call up on the phone and talk to about her dancing experiences and all the shenanigans that they used to get into. So with it being a personal story, obviously there's a lot of weight that comes with that and a little bit of pressure, knowing that you're portraying people that have walked and lived this earth. My character DJ, honestly, not that I know of. I don't think he's based on anyone real that Ekwa knows. Maybe character wise he is, but nobody that's like actually a figure in her life. So I got off a little bit easy with that, but the core family members with Walter and Zainab and Jamie's character Sylvia, they're walking and embodying those characters. So I often got to sit there and listen to stories about her, talking about her family. So
Yeah. And I'm really interested in your character development and the way that you kind of figured out the different layers and the different nuances
yeah.
of who DJ is, because the story's told in three chapters from three different character perspectives within the same family. And DJ is kind of on the periphery and comes in and out of this story at different moments.
Yeah.
So we see him in just these snapshots. We don't see his home life, but we have little lines about, oh, my family are all down in the South. I grew up
Yeah.
without my dad.
Mhm.
And so I wanted to ask about how you really kind of like took those tiny details that Equa peppers in throughout the script about DJ, but also how you really kind of constructed him to like a much more rich degree and added all those extra layers to him so that when you do have those moments where you come onto screen, it's giving so much depth through your performance.
Yeah. Well, with anything, any role, as an actor, it often teachers or people who teach acting classes will let you know it's all about the moment before. So building what that character was feeling before you even stepped into the scene. But taking that a step even further is just like living through that character and imagining how their daily life would go. Like, oh, did DJ grab a coffee before he went here? Does he walk to school? Does he take the bus? Did he drive over here? Was DJ waiting for Sylvia to arrive? How does DJ feel about Sylvia not being able to dance? Like her parents holding her back. What are his emotions? What is he going through at home? It's a lot of just trying to live through that character. So building that whole backstory for DJ was definitely a process and it took a lot of imagination because, as you say, throughout the script there are a lot of pops, but we get a little bit of flavor and a little bit of life from those moments that I kind of use as inspiration to imagine. DJ probably has a tough life at home. He's struggling in school, but he's a smart guy. And he really cares about Sylvia. And to me, it was also kind of important to be this positive guiding force within the film, because most of the characters are obviously newly immigrated to the United States. And recently, obviously, we've been having hot button issues with immigration and whatnot, and some very horrible things that have been happening with separation of children and families. And having a character like DJ who is a U.S. citizen, he is an American. And he's positive about this immigration and helping Sylvia to understand like what her new life is like. Like that's inspirational to me, and I really connected to that portion of the character, and I wanted to make sure that people kind of felt that on screen. So just kind of let people know like what it should be. We should be educating people about our culture, not trying to keep people out. And I feel like that's what DJ kind of represents.
Yeah. He also feels like a character that brings so much optimism. And I love the way that he looks at Sylvia. And from the very first time that he interacts with her, he sees something in her and he sees potential. He sees her ambition, even though she hasn't
And
spoken
a
any of
dream, yeah.
this out loud at this
Mhm.
point. And the very first thing that he does is he's trying to encourage her to kind of like push herself and come out of her shell. And, when you first read the script and read just those details, just from those few lines when he first encounters her and is first kind of saying these things to her, and really trying to kind of like pull her out of herself. Did that give you a really kind of like great jumping off point for just understanding who he is at his core and the way that he views the world and other people around him?
Yeah, I think you used a great word when you were describing DJ's character, which is optimism.
Mhm.
I think he's an extremely optimistic guy, and he saw the best in Sylvia, even when Sylvia definitely, obviously, strong, empowered female, definitely
Mhm.
recognized the best in herself, but was kind of being suppressed by her parents and what they wanted. And obviously, who wouldn't? Your parents gave up so much to get you to where you are.
Mhm.
You want to make them happy, but at the same time, you have to live your life and be happy with what you're doing. And DJ, I feel like, kind of inspired that best core element of Sylvia, to get her to go to the dance competition, to get her to show what she's got, because she's such a talented individual, and like you said, DJ is optimistic and he can see those shining stars within people. So
Yeah.
that was those every single little like bite and moment that we get to
Mhm.
see DJ. I feel like you said, he brought so much hope to the script.
Yeah. And I like also that we get to have two separate scenes where he encounters both of Sylvia's parents, first her mother and then his
Yeah,
father. And there's a different dynamic when each of them walk into the room and see
very
him
much
with their
so.
daughter.
Yeah.
But I love the way that he kind of very much like stands back and gives her the space that she needs to have that moment with her parents, and kind of the way that he has like a huge amount of respect for adults in his life. And
Yeah.
and again, kind of did that kind of give you a lot of detail and idea about some of the way that he was raised and some of the values that were kind of intrinsically instilled in him when he was growing up?
Oh yeah, DJ. Obviously, he grew up without his father, as you said, but
Mhm.
at the same time, um, from an early age, it was clearly instilled in him to have
Mhm.
respect for adults and to respect authority figures, especially. I think he obviously cares about Sylvia very much, and he wants to give
Mhm.
her that space to love and learn and grow and figure out what's going on, because clearly there's a lot of friction going on in their family at the moment that DJ meets them, and he doesn't know Sylvia for very long, which is why it was so interesting to me how he became so attached so quickly. And I think it's just in his heart. It's just who he is. From a young age, he's been taught to love very hard.
Mhm. And, the way that Equus filmed this is so stunning, and kind of as I mentioned earlier, the way that the film's broken down into those 3 chapters where we have Sylvia and then each of her parents' perspectives. And you even have the opportunity to film one of the scenes twice, coming from different perspectives within it
Yeah.
as well. Was that kind of like an interesting experience, and how did that kind of alter at all, if it did, your performance in those moments where you're thinking about the character lens and the perspective of the film and the way
Yeah.
that your character is being viewed in those scenes?
Yeah, it's kind of interesting, because I feel like as an actor, for those scenes, you want to try to deliver a similar, if not exactly the same performance. Obviously, you're
Mhm.
seeing different moments of that same
Mhm.
situation, so there are going to be differences. But it was really just like trying to approach a normal scene, but then figuring out what you would look like from that other angle, which is like it was a bit difficult, but and at the time, it just goes to show Equa's vision, because at the time I
Mhm.
was a bit confused as to what was going on. Now I feel like I could direct a feature length film based off of Equa's teachings, but and the cinematography provided by Bruce, our cameraman, he was
Mhm.
killing it with the smoke screens and everything. It was going crazy, but it was a really amazing approach to be a part of, and then getting to see the final product, because when you're in the moment and you're in the scene and you're just trying to
Mhm.
deliver that performance, and how you think that character would live in that bite
Mhm.
of life in that moment, it's hard to see. So I just kind of delivered it as I would normally deliver
Mhm.
a scene, or how I would normally act as a DJ.
Yeah, I'm interested in your relationship and creative collaboration with Equa, especially because of how you just mentioned that you feel like you could direct a film based on everything that you learned. Because
Yeah.
this is her narrative feature debut as a filmmaker, but she brings such an incredible and unique and distinct vision to the table
Mhm.
as a filmmaker. And it sounds like from the way that you talk about working with her that she really kind of like valued input from you, the rest of the cast, and really kind of like treated those relationships very carefully. So what did that look like in terms of the communication, the conversations that you had kind of going into filming and pre-production, but then also the way that she would work with you and give you notes and give you feedback and work out the nuanced details of these scenes together once you were on set?
Yeah, like you said, definitely a collaborative effort, which is what was
Mhm.
so beautiful. Oftentimes, directors will run away with a vision and just and keep it for themselves, which like
Mhm.
all power to you, because that's, I mean, you are the director. You're allowed to kind of speak what you want into life.
Mhm.
But I feel like the best directors to work with are those that allow you to collaborate and kind of truly understand the script slash character, and who knows it better than the person that the script is based on. So talking to Equa and getting to hear what her vision was for each and every scene, like you said, those moments when we got to see the same scene from different perspectives and different moments, that was it was truly like you were like, I get it now. Because like when you see it written down on paper, it's one thing. And just being a stupid actor, you're like, oh yeah, it's the moment, like the characters. But getting to understand like the different, I don't know, bites of that same scene that we were gonna be a part of, and the different camera angles and how that
Mhm.
was gonna play into the way that we perform them and the moments that we perform. It was it was eye opening. Like it was a crazy moment to be a part of, because I was thoroughly confused at the beginning. Like I'm not even gonna lie, but then I after talking to Equa and understanding what her vision was, um, it all just started to fall into place.
That's so fantastic to hear. And,
Yeah.
your character as well, we keep kind of like mentioning that there's like a dance competition that he's encouraging Sylvia to join into and to become part of. And that's already part of his world and his existence. And I thought that the music and the dance choice that Equa brings in, she brings very kind of like culturally specific
Yeah.
music pieces, dance moments, but also really
Afrofuturistic. Yeah.
focuses on music and dance that's going to enhance the narrative and enhance the storytelling. So kind of what did that look like in terms of the choices that she was making and what she was bringing, and how it really helped you and everyone else in those scenes to just understand even more about your character's world and what you were bringing to the screen with them?
I know that it's just what's so cool about the film is it's definitely like we were
Mhm.
saying before, it was a part of Equa's life. So
Mhm.
this is like the kind of music that she grew up dancing
Yeah.
to, and something that's not like widely popularized. Like I had never listened to any like Afrofuturistic, like Afrobeat type music
Mhm.
before until working on Farewell and More, and getting to see how amazing it is to listen to those beats and those rhythms that we created. It really it brings an interesting touch to the film, because we easily could have scored it like a John Hughes movie and done like all the like I don't know how like indie type beats, but she went with like an Afro beat
Mhm.
vibe, and I think it just makes sense with the family being from Angola and Sylvia listening to this type of music. It all made sense. So.
Yeah. And what was the difference when it finally came to the point of shooting that scene where your character, Sylvia's character, are at that dance competition? Because, a lot of the moments leading up to that are kind of very intimate, very quiet. There's a lot of moments between the lines that we're reading between as an audience. There's often only a couple of characters on screen, and then suddenly we enter this world that's just full of energy, so many cast members on set, and there's a very different type of atmosphere. But also there's a lot of like intricate kind of like choreography and even just blocking of the scene, and the use of the camera changes a lot. So what was it like when you finally came to shoot that scene, and the way that that was a really, really different experience from the rest of the film?
Yeah, I think it's definitely meant to be like it's supposed to be jarring, because this is
Mhm.
Sylvia's like first step into this new world
Mhm.
of dance, which she's always been a part of in her heart. But
Mhm.
once we got in there, feeling the energy of everybody there and like how exciting everything was, and we had a lot of dancers who were just amazing. They were like popping and locking and like breaking it down. And I was like, oh snap, I can't dance based off of this reference. So it was that energy kind of fueled that scene. And I know that Ekwa had a vision for what that moment would be like. And like, I think it was just no hold bars once we got in there, because of just how, like, once the music started playing and the party started getting to jump in, it was lit, you know, like it was definitely a moment that came naturally. It was fluid, I would say, is the best way
Yeah.
I could describe it. There was nothing planned about it. I mean, obviously I didn't have to do the dancing, so I'm completely like out of the loop in that situation. But for me, I was just like, I was vibing and having a great time. And I think that's what really came through on the camera.
Yeah. And you've spoken a little bit about how this role in particular for you was a really exciting opportunity to show more of your dramatic abilities and kind of like step further into that realm, because obviously audiences are really familiar with you in a comedic and space in that way. Kind of within that, were there places where this really kind of like pushed you further, kind of like pushed you out of your comfort zone, but in a really good way, and gave you new skills as an actor that you feel like you developed in playing this character and working on this film?
Yeah, I definitely. I think when it comes to acting, I feel like one of the most important things to remember is like you're just trying to like live in this
Mhm.
character's shoes. So I feel like in comedy, at least in sitcoms, a lot of things are kind of forced, or it's like a very like theatric approach to things. Whereas as in movies, I cannot speak, specifically dramatic films, it's a lot more grounded and neutral. And I try to draw a lot of things from my own life that I could connect to DJ's life experiences to keep it as grounded and natural as possible. And that was what was so fun about it, honestly, because I feel like on Blackish, a lot of the time, no shade to Blackish, obviously, I have a great time over there, but a lot of the time it's like Junior's like, hey, what's going on, guys? Like I kind of like go over the top, whereas DJ is like, let's calm down, let's chill out, we're having a good time. I feel like he's a lot closer to my normal self, but at the same time brought all these interesting elements of his life, and his optimism and his passion for dance promoting and his passion for Sylvia,
Mhm.
into the role. So it was definitely a good lesson on just how to live in a character's shoes.
Yeah, and you all had the opportunity to premiere the film at Sundance. That was kind of
Yeah,
one of the last in-person festivals that we got to have,
I know
unfortunately. I
that was
remember
amazing. Yeah,
Yeah, I remember naively thinking early on, like, "But we'll all be back at Sundance next year,"
yeah, we'll be
in the
good. We'll be
same
fine. And
way.
it's like, no, not this year. 2020 said no.
Yeah, but I find a lot of the times that people talk about festivals and really think about it in terms of the value and the feedback that directors get, but there's such a value in that feedback and seeing how audiences respond as an actor as well. So wanted to kind of ask you about what that value is for you and what that experience is like, and how that's a really helpful tool for you to kind of like be in the room and just see the energy and see how people are responding, and then how that kind of continues to sit with you as you dive into your next projects and take on other characters from what you've learned from that experience.
Yeah, it's definitely. I feel as though when I first I started acting around 14 years old, or
Mhm.
not 14, 7 years old. And when I started acting, I did more like theater type things and a lot more dramatic roles. So it's crazy when I landed Blackish, I was kind of shocked that my first role was a comedy. And then I think that's kind of what most people recognize me for nowadays is being a comedic actor, after being on a sitcom for all these years. So it was really nice to be a part of a film like Farewell and More, where I could, in a way, return to my roots and kind of demonstrate this new type of character, and getting to see people's reactions like, wow, Marcus can actually be chill and just be a normal guy. And I'm like, I've been trying to tell y'all this the whole time. So it was a beautiful moment, especially I got to take my parents along as well. Getting to see them watch the film
Mhm.
was, obviously hits close to home, makes you, pulls at your heartstrings. But
Yeah.
it was amazing. I got a lot of great feedback from a lot of producers and directors and people in the audience who just are
Mhm.
filmmakers just like me, who like enjoy the craft. And that's really what you want to hear, because it's like that's why I love going to the SAG Awards, because it's like those are your people. Those are the people
Mhm.
who are creating with you and who want to see you succeed, and you want to see them succeed. So it was a beautiful moment.
Yeah, and because you were mentioning like the comedic styling of Blackish, but at the same time, one of the things that is why the show resonates and your performance really kind of like hits home with people so much is you have those comedic elements, but there's that ability to
Real.
completely shift the tone of a scene. We go from laughing to crying and just like feeling kind of like emotionally raw within just
100%.
seconds through the way that you and the rest of the cast approach these characters and from the writing. And was that something that you felt like you really had as a skill set at the beginning, or kind of like what was that journey of really starting to learn and understand the ability to just kind of like completely shift and turn a scene and turn a moment on its head emotionally as an actor?
Yeah, because there's definitely a duality in Blackish that
Mhm,
a lot of other shows don't really have, which is
mhm,
what has been so fun and kept it so fresh for so many years. And I feel like I definitely went in with a certain skill set, and I think honestly it was a lot harder learning the comedy beats and learning like
mhm,
how to keep pace with actors like Anthony Anderson, Tracy Ellis Ross, Lawrence Fishburne on that front. And then once you get comfortable, obviously it becomes second nature. But
mhm,
that was the difficult portion. I feel like the dramatic portion just kind of like I said earlier, like it's really like there's nothing to like acting is truly just trying to create this character. Like, oh,
mhm,
hey, somebody wrote down this character and like how they should act and trying to live in that character's shoes and make it as
mhm,
natural as possible and just be them. And that's what's so exciting, getting to like figure out new ways to approach every single character and like figuring out new backstories and new lives that these people have
mhm,
lived. I love high fantasy, so I love making up just like, oh, I think DJ had toast today. Like all those things like affect how you like, seriously, all those things affect like
mhm.
your performance and how you're feeling about a scene. And like maybe you woke up on the wrong side of the bed today, and like that's the performance you're gonna get. So it's it definitely it was a learning process for
Mhm.
some at the beginning, and then it just becomes second nature eventually.
Yeah. And did you feel like with Blackish as well that there was a point at which what the character was asking from you as an actor and what you needed to bring from your performance kind of shifted and changed? Because when we first met your character on the show, it was very much kind of like the parents have the answers to everything. They're the ones calling all the shots. But now there's like this beautiful point where, he's bringing a lot of poignancy and teaching them just as much and bringing a lot of emotional maturity to himself. So did you feel kind of like over the seasons that there was this shift in terms of who he was as a character, but also kind of like what you needed to bring to him yourself as well?
Yeah. I think what's so cool about Blackish is our characters have not stayed stagnant throughout the
Mhm,
years. Obviously, we started out on the show as one thing, and as the years
mhm.
have gone on, we've been on for around 7 years, and
Yeah.
our characters have grown up. We've grown up, and the writers have recognized that and allowed those stories to be told, which I think provides a very interesting
Mhm,
dynamic. Excuse me, because I feel like a lot of people always come up to me and they're like, "I've seen you
mhm,
grow up on the show," and it's I mean, all I've physically grown up, but also the writers have done a great job of making sure that we're provided material that reflects that. And
yeah.
so, like you said, we're able to teach Bo and Dre a few things about humility or whatever, like whatever's going on in the world today, technology or whatever it happens to be, which is really cool. And it's definitely it's nice to be in the shoes of a character that's continually evolving because it just keeps it fresh and you're able to provide new things to the audience and provide new things to the
Mhm.
character.
Yeah. And what was that experience like the first day that you all got to walk back onto set again after just the entire industry? It wasn't even just the Blackish production that was shut down. The entire industry really shut down. And
Yeah.
what was that kind of just like emotional energy amongst everybody that first day that you all got the chance to be together again, even though it was a completely different environment and space that you were walking into?
I think we were all scared. We were all like, what is going to happen? Because, we were like, I feel like ABC kind of put a few shows on, or a bunch of networks put a few shows on as like test run shows for protocols. And we went over all of our zone A, zone
Mhm,
B, you got to wear PPE protection, you got to wear everything. You guys can't talk to each other. You can't hang out in
mhm,
between scenes. Your designated areas here. So it's like it was a lot to take in.
yeah,
It was honestly a shock, but it was obviously nice to be back at work because I know I was extremely fortunate and able
mhm,
to get back to work. There's a lot of people who aren't able to get back to work, so definitely count that as a blessing. But trying to figure out how we were going to do this in a time like 2020 where things seem to not be going right, was very difficult, but then coming together as a family, because obviously we've worked together for 7 years. We truly feel like a family at this point. And being able to act alongside family members makes it a lot easier. So it was an exciting but nerve-wracking time.
Yeah, well, it's been so great kind of watching you all come back into those characters and
Yeah,
really inhabit and talk to a lot of the experiences that everybody's been going through in 2020, which is what the show does so well. And your performance in Farewell, Amor is just really stunningly beautiful. And it's such a fantastic job from everybody. And thank you so much for diving into talking about both of these projects with us today.
thank you so much. Is it Mara or Mara?
Mara.
Mara. Thank you so much, Mara.